All right, you guys. So your next assignment is about black and white photography. And the first thing we're going to do is learn a little bit about black and white photography, how to write about it, what it's like, some of the artists, all of the above. So when you're in your slideshow, you're going to go to the second slide. So some of the objectives is that you'll be able to research, explain the aesthetic styles of black and white photography. You'll be able to identify and describe at least 5 renowned photographers known for their black and white photography. And you'll be able to write about your opinions about photographs using photography terminology. So before you do anything else, pause this video and make a copy of this slideshow and put it in your Yearbook Google Drive folder. Okay, so you're going to use this slideshow to move forward with this assignment. Just a heads up, you have until the 31st to complete this assignment. So what are we doing? We have 3 different sections of this project. So take your time, pace yourself. You have until the 31st, and you know I'm giving extensions if necessary. So your first assignment within this, your first section, is to research the aesthetic styles of black and white photography. Second one, identify and describe 5 photographers known for their black and white photography. Compare, contrast, and describe and give your opinion on photographs using photography terminology. So you'll see, we're going to keep going. So first thing, section 1, you're going to make a copy of this worksheet and save it to your Yearbook Google Drive folder, and you're going to complete this. So if I click on the link, it's going to take me to a new page. And you're going to see this document. You're going to make a copy of this document, save it to your Yearbook folder right now, because otherwise you are going to forget. And I need it to grade you. So in your own words, you're going to define these things. So go online, look up the definition, and make sure you pay attention to some of them are going to have more than one definition. So you're looking for like art or photography based things. So you're gonna look up a definition, and then I want you to write your own definition, so you can't just copy and paste what you see on the website, okay? So that is step 1. Okay, so section 1. So a few terms for you to know that I kind of wanted to explain versus having you explain. Is the different types of light. So I'm just going to explain 4 different types of light here, and they're not necessarily the only kinds of light. They are just some of the types of light. So hard light creates harder edged shadows. It can be unflattering in portraits, but it can also be really creative and interesting, and it might sometimes be better for an object versus a person, like a portrait. Softer diffused lighting, that's even lighting. It's kind of across the board. The whole shot is really even, and it creates soft edged shadows. So in this one, I would say look at the cheekbones and look at the shadow there, and that there's not a lot of shadow around the eyes. Those are kind of ways you can tell if it's soft or diffused lighting. Side lighting, that is the type of light that's shining only onto one side of the subject and creates an intense shadow on the other side of the subject. And then the last one is atmospheric lighting. So this kind of light is the type of light that involves some kind of a mist or a fog or dust, creating kind of a fuzzy glow of light that comes through the particles of dust or the particles of water in the air. So just a few examples of different types of black and white photography. We have Dorothea Lange on the left, Ansel Adams in the center, and Brassai on the far right. So when color is removed from a photograph, it changes everything. Color is very, very powerful. It creates pop, and it directs the viewer's eye to where you want them to look. So you're going to answer these 2 questions for me in complete sentences. Number 1, when you remove color, making an image black and white, what things become most important visually instead. So you're taking away the color. Now, what do you maybe look at a little more closely if you would have looked at the color before? Second question, black and white photography always feels more emotional to me. Why do you think it is that black and white photography conveys more emotion? And you're going to answer that as well in a complete sentence. So you're answering these questions on this slide. So kind of anywhere you see light gray on here, that's sort of where you would be writing on this particular slide. All right, so we have a list of a bunch of different black and white photographers. A lot of these artists did take color photographs as well, but we're going to focus on their black and white ones. Also, just a reminder that some of these artists are very artistic or they've worked in the fashion industry, and maybe not all of their photos are going to be totally appropriate. So pay that some heed and remember that. And obviously, I can't control what comes up on your image search on Google. So just pay attention to that. Be aware. All right, so for section 2, you're going to go back to that slide and you're going to go through and do a little search. I want you to look at the artwork of all of those photographers, and then I want you to choose the 5 that you liked the most and fill in the next 5 slides about these artists. Okay, so for each slide, you're going to copy and paste the 3 photos that you liked the most. And for each photo, you're going to caption why you liked the photo. And no, your answer cannot be that it looks cool. Make sure your captions are complete sentences with no spelling errors. If you have spelling errors, I will grade you down for them. You must use your knowledge of photography terminology. You have some from this slideshow, and you've learned some in past projects, in the composition project, and in your portrait photography challenge. So please refer back to those, and then you'll see you've got a slide for each of these photographers ready to go for you. And then the last section, section 3, is a little bit more kind of like art history. So this is what I did a lot of when I took art history classes in college, and it's what you're about to do for this. So you're going to go to the document that's linked here, and you're going to click on that. You're going to make a copy of it and put it in your Yearbook Google Drive folder, and then come back to this slide. So you're going to use your knowledge of photography, taking photos, talking about each other's photos, etc. You're going to use all of that knowledge to describe, compare, and contrast the photos on each slide. Look closely at the photo, look at it from top to bottom, side to side, and write about what you observe. Zoom in on the photo if you can. If you need to take a screenshot to do that even more intensively, go for it. But make sure you're really giving it a solid look. Don't just look, say, in the center of the image or at the subject of the image. So you've got a lot of requirements here, so pay super close attention. You need to use complete sentences, no spelling errors. Again, look for that red underline, you guys. I see a lot of people writing, and there's a red underline for me to see, which means there was a red underline for you to see, which means you knew you were spelling it wrong and you just didn't care. So please take the time, do not include spelling errors, fix them. Capitalize the photographer's names when you write about them. And then I give you a bunch of different phrases that you could use in terms of phrases or terms that might help you if you get a little stuck. Think about natural outdoor light in comparison to a studio in which lights are really specifically pointed at the subject, and they're designing the lighting specifically to achieve what they want to achieve. So when you go to this document, you're going to see that the first 2 pages are already filled out. Those are examples. So those are ones that I've kind of done for you. And then you're going to do your own after that. So if I go to this document and try to make this a little big for you so you can see it. Okay, so you have this whole document. You've made a copy of it. You can, once you've looked at my examples, when you're ready to turn this in, you can delete my examples. But I want you to read what I've written and look at the photo in the meantime. So let's see if I can get this whole, I guess I can't get this whole photo on here for you if I look at it this way. So if you're looking at that photograph, you can go to the photograph and look at it and then listen to me read about kind of what I wrote. So the photographer is Elliot Erwitt, and my response was this. I said, the first thing I notice about this image is that it has a really strongly defined sense of foreground, middle ground, and background. We can see the person in the foreground in most detail. She seems to be in focus more than the rest of the photograph. Either she is more in focus than the middle ground and background, or the fog that's going over the buildings is making me think that. The background goes away almost completely. It fades into white or light gray. The fence in front of her has harder lines and is darker than the background, which makes it pop against the light gray foggy buildings. The buildings seem like they are so far away from her and each other that it makes me wonder where she is. Is she on top of another building? Is she on a bridge far away from those buildings? I think the buildings look like they're almost the same size as her, which means they're very, very far away. And it kind of messes with your head because obviously you know that a person in a skyscraper are clearly two different sizes. So that's my response for a describing one of these, right? So you guys have 2 describe and 2 compare and contrast to complete. So make sure you scroll all the way to the bottom of this document before you turn it in. So the next one I have is the compare and contrast. So looking at these 2 photos, listen to what I'm saying, okay? So the first photo is taken by Dorothea Lange. The second photo is taken by Irving Penn. So my response. The photo on the left by Dorothea Lange seems like it has much less contrast than the photo on the right by Irving Penn. The photo by Penn has really bright whites and really dark blacks. Studio lights can create this intense contrast. The photo by Lange has less contrast because it was taken outdoors in natural light. It seems to have more shades of gray than black or white at all. I don't hardly even notice white in this shot. The woman in the photo by Lange is surrounded by her children who are not looking at the camera. Maybe they are scared or shy, and she's the one being strong by looking at the photographer. Just by showing the children, Lange is capturing the responsibility of being a mother, needing to provide for the people relying on you. All of their clothes are torn and dirty looking, which makes me think that they are poor. And the mother looks concerned or sad. In comparison, the model in the photo by Irving Penn looks wealthy with fancy pearl earrings, gloves, and a stylish hat. The woman in the second photograph has nothing around her, just a plain white background. In comparison to the photo by Lange, she seems to be carefree, looking in a mirror to check her makeup, when it doesn't seem like the woman in the Lange photo would even have a mirror or makeup. The 2 photos are portraits of women, and it feels like that is the only similarity. So as you scroll down, you're going to see number 1 is a describe what you see, minimum 8 complete sentences. You have the photographer is Henri Cartier-Bresson, right? And then your response. Number 2, you're going to describe what you see again. Minimum complete sentences is 8. And the photographer is Ansel Adams. Number 3, you're going to compare and contrast these 2 photos. What are the similarities and what are the differences? Minimum 10 sentences on these because you have 2 photos you're looking at. Both of these photos are taken by Michael Kenna. And then number 4, you're comparing and contrasting these 2 photographs. What are the similarities and what are the differences? Again, minimum 10 sentences because you are working with 2 different photographs. Here, the first photo is also by Dorothea Lange, like our example, and the second photo is by Elliot Erwitt. Okay? So once you complete that, you can put it into your Yearbook Google Drive folder and submit it. and then you will be ready to go. So that is your black and white photography history and background and information. Next up, we will take our own black and white photographs.